I'm co-president of the League of Women Voters, and we want to welcome you to our second school board candidate forum for the candidates in District 5. Before we get going, I want to introduce you to Isabella La Fuente, who is our most recent board member. She is a star member of the STAR program through the Boys and Girls Club and about to be a senior at Pineview High School. And she's going to lead us.
Hi, can everyone please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The League of Women Voters is honored to welcome Suncoast Searchlight as our partner in these forums that we've been holding for the primaries. The League is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The views expressed this evening are those of the candidates and not of the League. And the League neither supports or opposes any candidate or any political party. A little bit of housekeeping for our audience. For the purpose of decorum and allowing the candidates to spend the maximum amount of time answering the questions you want to hear, we ask you to refrain from applauding or speaking out anytime during the forum. Additionally, this forum is being recorded, as you can see. The recordings from last night and tonight will be available on our website for those who are not able to attend the live stream. It is also being live streamed. The League is the sole owner of that video, and no one is allowed to use it for any purpose. No campaign, no individual is allowed to use any portion of that video for purposes of their own. But everyone is encouraged to invite their friends and neighbors and family to view the recordings. I have two sort of announcements and reminders. One is I would like to remind you and encourage you to remind your neighbors and your friends that while this is called the August primary, school board is a nonpartisan race and it is a final election. So many people who, especially those who are no party affiliation and those people who just say, primaries, are missing out on a big opportunity. So please encourage everyone to vote. And also in the packet that you received, and I don't have it in front of me at this moment, but it also had some really important dates of when the final date is to register to vote, the final date to request your vote by mail ballot. And so I ask you also to keep that in mind and to share it with your neighbors. So before I get started, and we are going to get started quickly, I want to thank the Forum Committee that worked diligently to curate tonight's questions and to oversee the multitude of details that are required to put together such an event. And to METV, what a joy to have them work with us this year. Their work is exceptional, and you're going to be so proud when you see yourselves on these videos. They're just great. Anyway, and a final reminder that the forum will be followed by a meet and greet, and so you are welcome to stay and ask the candidates those questions that we neglected. So I'm going to introduce our moderators, and we can get going. Vilya Johnson joined the League of Women Voters of Sarasota County in 2019 and currently serves with me as my co-president. We work to empower voters and strengthen civic engagement. In addition, she serves on the board of directors of the Digital Democracy Project, a nonpartisan organization that equips voters with the tools to monitor and influence the legislative process. Emily Lacaze is executive editor-in-chief of Suncoast Searchlight and oversees the newsroom's editorial strategy and day-to-day operations. Emily comes to Suncoast from USA Today, where she spent 5 years as an investigative reporter and editor. Prior to USA Today, Emily's prestigious career includes positions with Gatehouse Media, the Sarasota Herald Tribune, and the recipient of multiple awards. I'd like to thank both ladies for co-moderating today.
Thank you, Rhonda. Welcome to the League's School Board Candidate Forum. I wanted to give you the format for this evening's forum, and that will include candidates have 90 seconds to reply to questions and make concluding remarks. All questions will be asked of both candidates. The order in which the candidates answer will be rotated with each question. Candidates are requested to answer the specific question that was asked. No rebuttal or dialogue is permitted. Candidates may discuss their opponent's policy positions but may not make personal remarks regarding other candidates. Our timekeepers will display a yellow sheet indicating 20 seconds remaining in time, and when no time is remaining, the red sheet will be shown. And you are allowed to finish the sentence. We had a big debate about this last night. We were terrifying the speakers, apparently, with our rules, but you're allowed to finish a sentence if the flag goes up, but please be respectful of the time. As Rhonda mentioned, recording is prohibited. However, photographs are allowed, but please try not to be disruptive. And the candidates here tonight have agreed to follow these rules. Emily?
Good evening. I would like to introduce our candidates by district now. Before I introduce our current slate, I do want to mention that Mr. Jimmy Glover, a candidate for District 1 School Board, was supposed to be here this evening. We did hold our District 1 forum last night, and he was unable to attend, but unfortunately he is unable to attend this evening as well. But in District 1, in addition to Mr. Glover, the candidates are Ms. Heidi Brandt and Ms. Teresa DeWitt. For District 5, I am pleased to introduce Ms. Beth Mayberry and Ms. Michelle Posey. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the only exception to our rule against applauding is right now as I ask you to help me welcome the candidates.
All right, we will begin with question 1, and we will begin with Ms. Mayberry. Describe your background and experience as it relates to the responsibilities of the school board and explain why you're qualified for the position.
Thank you for everybody being here. It's really a pleasure to see so many people who are interested. I'm a retired school teacher from here in Sarasota County. I taught middle school here for 14 years. And before that, I was a certified financial planner. The certified financial planner has to pass educational requirements for retirement planning, insurance, investments, budgeting, and did I say retirement planning? Anyway, there's a lot there. So that was what I did for 10 years of that, but before that I was in financial services. So I have a good background. I have had a Series 7 license, Series 63 license, insurance license, etc. I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids who went to our schools here, and I have 3 grandchildren who are currently going to our schools here. So I've got some skin in the game, and I have the qualifications to do what's needed to be done on the board.
Thank you. Ms. Posey?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Michelle Posey. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself real quick that I think makes me uniquely qualified. First of all, I've been doing this work of kind of being involved at the district level long before I ever decided to put my name on a ballot. Kind of what you're probably doing as taxpayers or even parents who have students in the district. You may be already going to school board meetings. That's something that I didn't wait until I wanted to run for school board to do. I really took an active role in that. I do have 2 children. Unfortunately, only one is with me today. My son passed away about a year ago, but I'll tell you, I did drive the educational successes of their educational curriculum because I chose the choice route. What did that look like? It looked like a little bit of public school, a little bit of charter school, a little bit of homeschool, early college, dual enrollment, which was really a great blessing here in the state of Florida. And so when I look at what's happening in our district and in our state with regards to school choice, I don't look at it like the parents or those that want to exercise choice are somehow the problem. I look at how can we be the number one place that parents choose. And I think I look at that very, very uniquely. I've also been an instructor for the last 25 years teaching performing arts students. I was formerly the executive director of the Sarasota County YMCA Frank G. Berlin branch, where I oversaw a multi-million-dollar budget that was uniquely tied to making parents and families happy. So I think that I have what it takes to bring that into our Sarasota County School District.
Thank you. And question 2, and we will begin with Ms. Posey. What experience do you have that qualifies you to handle your fiduciary responsibility for the school district's $1.5+ billion budget at this time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of people can have a lot of different educational background when it comes to finance, which may make you think that they are somehow more equipped to be able to handle this job. But I'll tell you, if you will not take a stand, and a hard stand, when you're coming up against difficult issues, then it doesn't do me any good to say that I have more education than somebody else. For example, in 2021, I was one of just a handful of people that were going to school board meetings talking about what I called then a hemorrhaging budget. The concern that we were somehow hiring instructional staff on non-recurring dollars. It was something that was glaring to me. I called it getting drunk off of COVID funds. I mean, that's how bold I was to say. I've also been on public record in many interviews saying that, again, not as a candidate, just as a constituent. And so I think no matter what you think about me running a multi-million-dollar budget with the YMCA and making that a success, even if that's not enough for you, I think you should know that I have no problem being a vocal advocate for both when I see something done incorrectly and when I see something done correctly. I have that leadership skill, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Do we want Ms. Mayberry to answer the question?
I'm sorry. Oh, whoops. Okay. Sorry. That's okay. No worries there. So the fiduciary responsibilities for the school board are really many. The first fiduciary responsibility is making sure we are spending our money properly and that we are monitoring our superintendent, because we hire and fire superintendents. So again, as a certified financial planner, I had experience in making sure that I was doing the right thing for my clients. As a CFP, you have ethics training, you have to be excellent in customer service, along with knowing how investments work and how retirement plans work and how insurance works. And those benefits that we have in our budget right now are eating up a lot of our money. So having that experience helps. We also have a fiduciary responsibility to leave our personal opinions and personal agendas behind and do what's right for the children in our schools. And that, I think, is the most important fiduciary responsibility we have, to make sure that we are not focusing on what we think is the right idea, but we are grounding our decisions in science, in what's right for our students, and in making sure that we are collaborating together to come to the right solutions.
Thank you. Next question. What are the most pressing issues facing our Sarasota County students, and how do you intend to support those students' needs regarding those issues? And we will begin with Ms. Mayberry.
So I think, we've got a lot of issues with our students. Our students are coming to school anxious. They are struggling to show up. They're disengaged, and I think that's a real problem. And I think some of that stems from the divisiveness we see in our community. Because if students are at home and they're not hearing support for our school systems and for the schools that we have, and they're not hearing support for them doing what they need to do to be successful, it can translate throughout their entire career in schools. So I think the first thing we need to do is attack that divisiveness, and I think part of that means making our school board sessions efficient, joyful, welcoming, and business-oriented, being the business of being in trying to make sure our students are getting what they need. That's what the business of the board is. So that's what we need to be doing in order to try to help these students with that particular issue of not being able to handle and being overwhelmed by what society is throwing at them.
Thank you. Ms. Posey?
Yes, great question. Well, I won't tell you what my opinion is. I'll tell you what people have been telling me while I've been out on the campaign trail. One of the big issues has been the idea that behavioral issues are not always followed through consistently across our district. And one of the things I love is that our current superintendent is really working, at least with me, he's vowing that this is something that he wants to take head on. The idea that we do have a top-down approach, that we set what the standard is administratively from the superintendent. We'll provide those support structures to principals and assistant principals, but we really want to see universally this behavioral issue sort of nipped in the butt, so to speak. And that goes right along with our vaping issue that we've had. I obviously live in Northport, and we've had a huge issue there at Northport High School. So I think some of those things are going to work itself out this year with some of the programs they have coming in. I will say one of the things that really breaks my heart is the achievement gap that I've seen, not so much in the headway that we've made in third grade reading, but when we look at the literacy rate in things like math and reading for those children, those students that were graduating. I'm talking 12th grade, they're going to be the next employee that you hire, and yet their literacy rate for some of them is 37 to 40%. That's not setting them up. You want to talk about why maybe they're a little sad and a little bleak. If you don't feel like you are set up to do the best possible job you can, of course that's going to relay in how you feel about going to school.
Thank you. My next question is, how should the district respond to the impact of the voucher system and the growth of school choice options while at the same time maintaining strong public schools? And we'll begin with you, Ms. Posey.
Great question. So I suggest that we handle the voucher school program, the voucher system, the way you would handle it if you had a business that had people that were competing for your consumers. The first thing you do is you go to your consumers and you say, why are you choosing a different route? We sat through a workshop for the school board. You can watch those online, by the way, where we had our own consulting firm basically interpreting what some of it came out of Tallahassee with their budget. And what they noticed is that even though we are seeing an influx of people coming into the state of Florida, they are not choosing the traditional public school method. And I don't know who's really out there asking that question. So I've been asking that. And a lot of what I'm hearing is people move to Florida for a lot of the educational freedom that they want, but they're not sure if they're going to get that in a public school environment. I think as soon as we take away the idea that parental choice is somehow to blame for everything, and we can just look at how we make Sarasota County Public Schools the most viable, most competitive option. I'll give you a perfect example. My daughter always was really outgoing in performing arts. I'm not going to get that through a lot of these charter school programs. We have great performing arts, especially in high school. They lead into a lot of great opportunities even into college. Those are things we need to be highlighting in our community, I think.
Ms. Mayberry?
So there's some major problems with the vouchers. I'm a huge proponent of school choice. I think parents should have the opportunity to choose a good school, but we as taxpayers deserve to make sure that the choices they're choosing are not underperforming choices. And right now, there is no accountability in the schools that are taking the voucher money. We have got to make sure there are three things that happen. First is accountability. Our public schools have 700 different statutes they have to abide by, and our for-profit charters and our private schools have less than 40. So that's a lot of regulation that our public schools, from what they can spend money on to how they have to treat exceptional students, that's a lot of regulation that protects your students, but it's also a lot of regulation that costs money. Second, we need to move that funding out of so that there are two separate sets of funding. Right now, what's happening with them put both together is that for-profit companies that are profit-minded are muddying the water to try to indicate that their schools are better than ours when there's no evidence right now that they are.
And now you'll flip back to me. We're going to go back and forth every two questions. A new Florida law entitled the School Board Bill of Rights takes effect July 1st. What rights outlined in this new law are helpful to school boards, and are there aspects of the new law that concern you? And we'll start with Ms. Mayberry.
So this is really interesting to me because I didn't realize that school board members were so restricted about who they could talk to and how they could get the information that they needed. So this particular Bill of Rights allows school board members to talk to the CFO without permission necessarily from the superintendent. You can talk to principals, you can talk to staff, et cetera, without having to get express permission. So this gives a more transparent look for the board without having a lot of gatekeepers. So it's an ability, I think, to find the issues, to get a little bit more underneath the issues so you get more information about them, and then you can, I think, find a way of solving it. I didn't really see any negatives. I didn't read the entire thing and go point by point, but I think this is a benefit to our school system because I think some of the problems that can get swept under the rug can't be swept under the rug with this new system.
Thank you, Ms. Posey.
Yeah, I would just ditto that sentiment. This was legislation that actually I was grateful to work with some legislators on. What we didn't realize until some school board members across the state started speaking up is that it was one of the things that was very difficult for school board members was to get sort of a line item detail for budget items that they were concerned about. And this happened even in our own district. So I guess making a long form more short for you, what I'll say is that when you have issues, when you realize that there's things that are going on in your district, you have to be able to reach out to somebody that can help. And in this case, we realized we had to help give our board members across the state some sort of teeth that allowed them a framework to work within, because we're realizing that transparency wasn't as transparent as we thought. You engage your legislators to do that. So this is something that I was very proud to see. Again, I don't see anything that is troublesome in it, but I won't say it may not be perfect. It could be something that could be worked on, but this is something we worked very hard on this legislative season.
Thank you. If elected, what innovative approaches will you bring to the district's long-term plan with regard to attracting and retaining families to our public schools? Ms. Posey.
Well, I think we have to play a strategic role as board members, working everything that's an agenda item into how it ties in to our strategic plan. When it comes to Sarasota County Schools, the first thing we have to do, and I'm grateful that our current school board did this in policy, but we need to make sure that our spending is under control. What they've done in this district is they decided we're not going to spend any recurring dollars on instructional staff. That's huge, because if you're bringing someone into your family, into a school as an instructor, and then they can't have their job in 1 to 2 years because those funds ran out, that's a failure on our part. So that's the first thing. I think we're on our way to that. The second thing is, again, I'll go back to the achievement gap. One of the things that I want to do that will not only help this district, but will help our state, is to continue working with legislators to try to get a stopgap that stops us passing on those that have reading issues from 3rd to 4th grade, 4th to 5th grade, 5th to 6th. We've got to provide those helping systems in 1st and 2nd grade. We've got to make sure that we're giving our teachers and our students every opportunity to succeed. And I'll tell you, I just left a press conference with DeSantis. This is the 3rd year in Florida where we are operating in a huge surplus because he's cutting back on our budget. So those dollars are there to make sure that we can help overfund reading exceptionalism in our schools.
Thank you, Ms. Mayberry.
First, I'd like to say I'd like to get some of those dollars because we aren't getting them. This year we're getting funded at $85 more per child, which is about, it's less than 1% if you look at the total amount of our funding. I don't know about you all, but I know it's costing me a lot more than 1% to fill my refrigerator and fill my gas tank. The innovations I think we need, first of all, I do think that we need to find out why people are leaving. We haven't really had that many people leave. I know this has been put out there, all these people are leaving, but it's really less than 5%. We had 1,800 kids out of almost 40,000 that chose vouchers instead of public schools. So we should have surveys and exit studies to see why are people leaving and what don't we have that they want. So that would be the first thing. I mean, Mr. Connor said in my meetings with him that if it's something that our parents want and it's cost effective, we can put that in there. So I think that's important. Second thing, I think it's very challenging for people to navigate the communications that we have right now. Our system is all on one website, and it's very challenging, I think, for parents. We need to make sure that we make our communications more efficient so our parents and families know and understand how to get the information that they need.
Thank you. Piggybacking off of that question, what is your plan to attract and retain quality teachers to the Sarasota County School District? And we'll start with, who do we start with, Villia? Oh, Miss Mayberry. Thank you.
So, our teachers are our foundation of our kids and our learning, and they are the biggest impact that our students have on our students, sorry. So the first thing I think we need to do is figure out what is it we can do to make their job less taxing. There's excessive documentation. There's behavior issues that need to be addressed. And I think we need to bring in as many experienced adults or even caring adults to help teachers to manage the classroom situation, whether that means pushing some of this documentation to admin or bringing in volunteers to help. We need to make sure that we are doing that. Second thing we need to do, and I would love to say the first thing we need to do is pay them more, because I think that's great. I think that's important. But if we aren't getting more money from Tallahassee, we're going to be cutting teachers again, whether we like to admit it or not. So I would love to pay them more and make sure their benefits are secure. That's just not, I don't think, in the budget unless we get more money. We also need to make sure they see that we respect them and that we're not up in the school board talking about how the teachers are not doing their job, etc. So respect, making sure we take off their plate whatever we can take off of their plate, and bringing in more help. All of those three things I think will help retain.
Thank you, Ms. Posey.
Yeah, I'll start by saying in all the board meetings I've been to and I've sat in the last 7 years, I don't think I've once heard a school board member say that they thought our teachers in our school were not doing an effective job. So I just really want to make sure that people understand what we say, even from this platform, really matters, because we've got to make sure that we're 100% evidence, truth-based. I don't think anybody's ever said that in our school district. I'll say the first thing we can do for teachers is we can support them. So in other words, when you tell a teacher that part of their pay increase is tied to how their students perform, whether it's at an exit test or it's their end-of-the-year grade, and yet you don't give that teacher the parameters to really flourish. For example, I had a teacher come up and say, okay, I have students that are missing a lot of classes. They're not in their chair. They're not here for me to teach, but yet I'm supposed to still test them. Now when they do not pass that test, it looks bad on me. Why are people not helping us to enforce our attendance policy? That's a great question, because sometimes in an administrative role, you can feel really removed from what's taking place day to day. I think it's important, not just as a board member, but to support our superintendent in making sure that our teachers feel supported. That's the culture I want to bring into the school district.
Thank you. And the next question is, what are the advantages or disadvantages of allowing outside providers, such as Schools of Hope, to share public school facilities? And we'll start with you, Ms. Posey.
Yeah, I said in another event that I think Schools of Hope was an attempt to help look out for your best interest, tax dollars wise, to make sure that schools weren't sitting 30%, 40% vacant. You know, you pay to keep those lights on either way. So we want to make sure that you're educating students in that space. Do I think it was done perfect? Absolutely not. It was actually geared towards more of a Broward, Miami-Dade type of situation. For Sarasota, it didn't work. And I think we weren't largely as vacant as other districts. So to kind of make a one-size-fits-all cut from Tallahassee didn't work in this situation. But what I will tell you is that as we look at education as tax dollars, your tax dollars, supporting education, we have to start thinking, what are you most passionate about? The fact that we keep public schools ideally looking just like they have through the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s? Or are we more passionate about, you know what, I don't care if it doesn't look exactly the same, our tax dollars going to fund education of students? And I think when we can start thinking about that, it may not look like it did in the 60s, but neither does the car that you drive. And we're all okay with innovation in every other platform. We should embrace it in education. I'm saying that I'm the one that's up here that has the qualifications and the ability to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Mayberry.
So the Schools of Hope is a disaster. I mean, even the legislature didn't want it. It was snuck into a budget bill. The legislators didn't look at the budget bill. They passed it, and there it was. And it's a big, horrible, awful program. We were lucky. Well, I won't say lucky. I would say our superintendent was smart. He was able to address the undercapacity schools. And what he did was he brought in third parties to be present in our schools, like the Children's Museum, like the YMCA daycare, like the Junior Achievement. So third parties in our schools, as long as we're able to control who they are, how they're coming in, and what they're doing, can be a wonderful benefit. But Schools of Hope did not allow that. It did not. It's like having your mother-in-law call you and tell you because you got an empty bedroom in the back, your brother-in-law's moving in. He's going to eat all the food in your refrigerator. He's going to use your car whenever he wants to, and you'll find out when he wants to use the bathroom. And they were paying nothing. So the Schools of Hope is awful. They were supposed to have fixed it this legislative session. When I spoke with legislators who are present in our district, their reply about why they did not have a companion bill was because they just ran out of time. That sounds to me like it was not a priority. Our children were not a priority for our legislators.
Okay, next question. Recent budget cuts have affected many programs in the Sarasota School District. What, if anything, would you do to address this decrease in programs? We'll begin with Ms. Mayberry.
So I think, Sarasota has been very active in what they want for their schools. We have taxed ourselves more than 6 times to improve our investments in public education. So I think if we have to cut programs, I think we need to have huge transparency to our public. We had a lot of pushback when they talked about closing some of the schools before, and I think we absolutely have to involve our community in deciding what programs we can afford to let go of because of budgets. Because at some point, again, if we aren't getting more money from Tallahassee, we're going to have to cut programs, we're going to have to cut people. 85% or 86% of our budget is people. So that leaves a very small amount that we can cut in order to cut programs. We're going to end up having to make decisions that are going to be hard. It's not going to make people happy. I'm sorry to be a Pollyanna here, but our community is going to have to give us guidance with that. The board should not be the sole responsible entity for making decisions that are going to impact our community so greatly.
Ms. Posey.
Yes. Well, budget concerns are something that aren't just here in Sarasota County. This is something that the entire state of Florida has dealt with, even across the nation. We're seeing places like Seattle and New York really struggle with this as well. We do the same thing that we would ask you to do in your own home. If you've got to make those cuts, you've got to go through strategically and figure out what is not creating a return on investment. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. One thing I will tell you that I was very pleased to learn is that in speaking with our superintendent, Connor, he's already taken the initiative to cut about 22% of his administrative costs. Because I like to see how, if we're laying off teachers or we're cutting instructional jobs, not that you want to see anybody lose their job, but that should be fairly implemented across the line. And he did take that initiative. Actually, he said it was almost 25% of administrative costs. I think that this is a temporary issue that we're having. Just like if you remember a couple of years ago, we had an issue of not being able to find new teachers that wanted to come into the teaching industry. Well, we then gave them the highest, granted, we could always give teachers more money, but we gave them quite an increase, and we solved that problem. So I think this is another thing that we need to tackle. We need to tackle it optimistically, but realistically. And I don't think it's just by chance that we have a school board Bill of Rights that allow me to look at a line item budget a little more clearly, and we're also going to be able to address budgeting concerns. I think it's going to be a good recipe.
Okay. If elected, what will be your top priorities? Ms. Posey.
Yeah, I won't even say once I'm elected. It's something that I'm working on right now. This achievement gap is something that's really hit me in my heart because I'm looking around the country and realizing we're not the only state that has realized that some students, by the time they get to 10th and 11th grade, if we've neglected them in things like literacy, they really are being set up for to not have success as young adults. So I've been working with the legislature to draft similar legislation like what you've seen in Mississippi with the Mississippi Miracle. Again, Mississippi is very economically challenged. They consider themselves a purple state. So I look at this as something that would be great no matter what your social economic status is, no matter what your political party affiliation is. This is really driving to the heart of we want to make sure that we're able to get these kids to succeed. What they did is they unified at the legislature level and said, we're going to make sure that if that child is not reading on grade point level in third grade, we're not passing that buck off. We're actually going to start noticing it in late first grade and second grade. They have given enormous amounts of funds to schools to be able to help with those issues. And then they also do remedial into fourth grade so that by the time that child is in fifth grade, you know that they are going to be able to succeed. They've went from 49th in the nation to fourth in the nation, and they haven't spent half of what other states have in education. I think we can do it.
Thank you. Ms. Mayberry.
So one of the problems I think we have, and this is really impacting our reading scores, is we have Title I schools that are not receiving the resources and the personnel that they need. So we have some schools that are getting lots of resources. They have lots of money. Their PTOs are very active. And then we have other schools that have few volunteers. The PTOs are not, they may not even have PTOs. And it's a struggle because we have very rich schools and we have very poor schools. So I think we need to look at balancing those resources so we can bring those lower schools up, and that will increase our average scores. The other thing is we talk a lot about third grade reading, but you know what? Our reading scores continue to decline through middle school. And as a former middle school teacher, I can tell you that those kids don't like to read. They don't want to read, and they won't read unless you make them read. So that is a key thing that we need to focus on, is continuing that literacy all the way through high school. And that means books. That means books that interest kids. That means having books available in your classrooms. And we've had a lot of that not happening. So getting more help, balancing our resources, and continuing our literacy work all the way through high school.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. What do you think the school board's role should be in working with the Sarasota Teachers Union? And we'll start with Ms. Mayberry.
So Florida unions aren't like Pennsylvania unions, I'm just going to say. Our SCTA is not as strong a union as we would see in other places, and our teachers don't have the right to strike. So when we think of unions, if you're from up north, it's not the same. Our teachers union helps find the issues that are impacting our staff, and they try to resolve them. They work as an advocate for the teachers and the staff, and they should be an avenue for our school board to find out what the problems are before they become big problems and to try to fix problems that are systemic. They also do the bargaining, which is important. They make sure that the teachers get a fair shake. But I think the important thing with the school board is to make sure we do bargain fairly, but that we're also transparent to the union, but they're transparent to us, and that we do take the time to communicate with them to find out what the issues are that are causing strife with our staff, and find out figure out how to fix them.
Thank you. Ms. Posey?
Yeah, on this topic, I'll say that I do not have any will to want to get involved between Connor, our superintendent, and the teachers union in some of their debate back and forth. I have full, unequivocal support for our superintendent. I will say here in Florida, I agree. I don't think our unions are nearly as popular as you would think they once were. And part of the reasoning for that is I'm not sure that they're really advocating for the voice of teachers. I want to make sure as the school board that we remain the place that teachers and students and parents can always come to be able to let us know what's happening within the schoolhouse doors. Again, I do not really, I'm not a huge fun advocate for what teachers unions have done over the last decade, and that breaks my heart. I come from the Midwest where we're nothing but unions, steelworkers unions, you name it. I don't think we've done teachers proudly here in the state of Florida or across the nation when it comes to teachers unions. I think they've been a bigger thorn in the side for teachers. I don't see them advocating strong and collective bargaining either. So I would let Connor handle that, and I'll make sure I support him. But I want to maintain being the place where teachers feel like they can come to tell me what's happening within the district.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the most positive aspect about Sarasota County Public Schools that you would share with a parent who has school-aged children and is considering moving to Sarasota County? And we'll start with you, Ms. Posey.
Okay, so I have a story to tell. And I'm a parent. I like to think that I know everything. My children would tell you there's no way I did. But when my son was younger, I'm going to say first grade, Cranberry Elementary, I'll never forget, as somebody who, again, parent, I think I've studied, I know all the things about parenting. I go into the school, and he's about to put his shoes on. They were having like a carpet time. I was about to help him. And I'm the parent that's in the room at the time helping. And I went to go help him because as a parent, you know, when you need to get those shoes on, like, let's get them on, let's go, we don't have time. And his teacher put her hand on my shoulder. She said, he's got this. And she said, Brandon, let's go, we got to go. And he, boom, fell on the floor, put his shoes on, and I'm watching, and I'm like, I had no idea. And I looked at her, and she's like, she kind of winked at me, and I thought, if this works right, what happens is that parents and educators unite. And you know what? My son wasn't able to get away with a lot because parents and teachers united. What I would tell any parent, and what I do tell parents that want to come into this district, that was my first mama bear moment. When I realized I don't have to have all the answers because I'm partnering with people that together will find it out. That teacher and others like her went on to make me a better parent. And I think when education's done right, those are the success stories.
Thank you. Ms. Mayberry?
Well, as a teacher, I loved my kids, I got to tell you. It was really fun being a teacher. I do think that one of the most positive aspects we have here, first of all, we have great schools. They are A-rated. We have problems like every other school system has problems, but we have great schools, and we have great choices. I mean, where else can you go and have a circus school or a performing arts school or a technology school? Or even SCTI has wonderful, wonderful choices. So I think when we talk about to parents or families, and we talk about what they want for their children, we pretty much have everything that they should want or could want for their kids, because nobody knows when the kids are 6 what they're going to want to do when they're 16. So having that flexibility, the school choice that we have in our system, and the fact that we have so many caring adults, not just our teachers, we have caring staff, we have caring community members, and I think that is a huge blessing to the children. We just need to be better about asking for what we need from our community, because I know that you guys are going to help and deliver that. Thank you.
Okay, I want to tell you, this is our third forum that we've had, our candidate forum, and these ladies are unusually succinct. I'm just giving you that notice. So between that and the fact that one of the candidates was not able to join us tonight, we're running a little ahead of schedule, so I'm going to throw you a wild card. I'm going to ask you, answer the question you wish we had asked. Ms. Mayberry, I'll give you a second to think about that. Talk about something we haven't talked about that's important to you.
I would say how to bring our community back together, because I think in our school communities, we need to be working really hard to make sure that we have support from the parents, that our parents are working together, and that will bring our children together. So for me, I would like to see initiatives that would support our school communities, so that each little school is actively working within their community and trying to get as much support as possible from that. And I would like to see us continue or go back to celebrating our students. We've had a number of kids that they've mentioned in the school board, but they've never brought those kids there. When you go to vote, you're going to get an I voted sticker, and it's going to be designed by one of our students. We had a student who was just named the Florida Patroller of the Year, little fifth grade Noah, and they mentioned his name, but they didn't bring him in. So I frankly think that we need to see more joy in our school board. We need to celebrate our children, celebrate our teachers, and celebrate the great job that I think Sarasota is doing with the limited resources that we're getting from Tallahassee.
Ms. Posey.
Thank you. That's an interesting question, and I appreciate the extra time to be able to ask it. But if I could ask you to ask us something, it would be, why now? Why have we decided to get actively involved and passionate about our Sarasota County School District now? I mean active and passionate to the point where you'll put your name on the line to be able to run for something, or you'll be able to speak publicly about it, or you'll go to a school board meeting and speak publicly about it. Because to me, even though I'm happy that people get passionate and they get involved, I do look at the nuances of when and why. Because things that have gone on in this district have been going on for a while. We should have been asking questions sooner. We should have been actively engaged as community members sooner. The issues and the questions that we have were always free to bring right in front of the school board dais at least one Tuesday a month. And yet I don't always see those that end up running for school board actively involved 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ahead of when they decide to put their name on a ticket. I think it's important for you guys to understand that some people have chose to do this in a volunteer way, as a way of saying this is my constitutional right to have a voice in this forum long before I put it on a ballot. And so I just want to make sure you understand that.
That was a good question. We're going to put that in the rotation. So, all right, thank you. We're going to move to your closing remarks now, please, Ms. Posey. Yep.
Well, I have to apologize because I'm usually louder, but I'm losing my voice. It's all the kissing babies, I guess. I don't know. Guys, I really want the opportunity to earn your trust on August 18th. I'll tell you, somebody once said, all you have to do is Google her name and you'll figure out who she is. Well, you will. But you'll also understand that I've been saying the same thing for 6 to 7 years. And that is that we want to keep education in our schools strictly academic-based. I'm telling you, if you keep it academic-based and you provide outcomes and returns on investment that parents and families can see, you won't have to talk about school choice anymore. Because what I know after educating students for 25 years in performing arts, where their parents are paying and my business actually thrives on whether or not I earn their trust and respect and put out a great product, I know that when you put out a great product, people come knocking down your door. Again, when I was the director for the Sarasota YMCA Frank G. Berlin branch, I ran a multi-million-dollar budget, but I was 100% accountable to the community. If I didn't provide the best summer camp program, if I didn't keep your children safe while they were with me for that summer camp program, if I didn't provide the right schedule with the right membership dues, I heard about it, and I heard about it in our wallet. So I believe some of the problems that we have are directly tied to a mute and deaf approach at the district level, and I am the right person with the right skills to make sure that we come out of this ahead.
I don't know if this is on. There we go. Sorry. So I've actually been volunteering in our school system since 1993, before I became a teacher. And that's one reason I did become a teacher, was because even though I was a certified financial planner, my passion was in the schools. I was also on numerous boards in our community. I organized community projects, and so I'm not exactly a newcomer. I've lived here in Sarasota County for 50 years, been in Northport for 30 years. I was the interim chamber director for the Northport Chamber of Commerce. I was on the SLOC, Environmentally Sensitive Land Oversight Committee for Sarasota County. I was on the board of South County Tiger Bay when they first started. I've done an awful lot. But once I became a teacher, of course, I was invested in the system in a different way and didn't exactly have the same ability to go out and do a lot of the things that I would have done. But I did that as an actual doing. It was not just going someplace and making a speech. It was actually being involved in the systems and making a difference. I would urge anybody that wants to make a difference to please volunteer in our schools, specifically our Title I schools. And that's my plea, and that's, I think, what we need to do as a community is step up, and everybody here can make a difference in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the formal questions portion of our forum, but we would like you to stay and speak to the candidates individually. And I just wanted to be sure before you leave, we have the materials out front that had all the deadlines and dates for the voting period for this election cycle. So please be sure you have that. I'd like to particularly thank our league volunteers who helped tonight, Suncoast Searchlight for helping us to sponsor it. Please join me in thanking them and our candidates. Thank you very much.